Right. We are live. We are live from a very messy and untidy man cave. You'll have to excuse me. There wasn't time to tidy the place up purely and simply because I've been watching a game of football. And I think, judging by the chat, probably a very different game of football to the one you lot watched. Let me pull that. There you go. That's a little bit. You can even see even more of the mess now. Now, as I understand it, you lot have been watching the Wickham game. And judging by the fact that the whole chat is saying squeaky bum time, I can only assume that Naughty Charlie and Naughty Tom have told you to say something like that. But while you were watching the Wickham game, I've been watching the Ipswich game. For those of you that don't know and didn't watch any game, it seems that West Ham split their squad between two friendlies, which bizarrely both kicked off at the same time today. We had one at 2 p.m. over at Adams Park at Wickham, and the one that I watched, also 2 p.m. kickoff over at Portman Road. David Moyes was in attendance in the one that I watched, and I'll read the team out for you just quickly. So, as far as I could see, we were playing a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1. We went with Randolph in goal, Connor Coventry at right back. Now, I don't claim to know lots and lots about all the players, but as far as I was concerned, he was a midfielder. So I thought we had a midfielder playing at right back. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had Balbuena playing at centre back, and then Alessi, who I also thought was a midfielder, playing at centre half next to it. We will get onto him in a minute. In fact, we'll get onto everybody in a minute. Aaron Cresswell playing at left back was the captain, of course, against his former club from where West Ham purchased him. Yarmolenko played on the right. We had Souček and Jack Wilshere in the middle. Grady D and Garner on the left. And whether you think Anderson was just behind Sebastien Haller or up next to him, it doesn't really matter. We had a front two or one just behind another one. So there we go. And it was quite an interesting formation. And as I understand, a lot of the other players were playing against Wickham. I don't even know the score yet. I know that was a high scoring game, but I don't know the score because I'm just dealing primarily with this one. Yes, I should probably put a disclaimer in at the start. This is a pre-season friendly. This is about fitness. This is about getting some miles in the legs. Although I do think, considering how little time we had since basically the end of last season, how unfit can they be? They've only been away for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. Right, I've made some notes. I'm going to take you through the notes and I want to talk about the players individually. After 5 minutes, Yarmolenko was put through by Sebastien Haller. I've got to say, by the way, that the Ipswich are not very good. Okay, Ipswich defence in particular was quite poor. Although they did create some chances, it was really their goalkeeper doing all the work. And I do think the scoreline is reflective. But Yarmolenko was put through after 5 minutes by Sebastien Haller, but he got into the box. He just wouldn't shoot with his right foot. And because of that, it basically, a chance amounted to nothing. You almost felt he was really trying to work it onto his left foot and sort of do what Yarmolenko does, but it didn't happen. 14 minutes, Yarmolenko squared the ball to Sebastien Haller. He was through. He was about 8 yards from goal. The tamest shot, with his left foot, granted, straight at the goalkeeper. It was a real chance, a really good chance. And at that point, I'm thinking, the fella, Sebastien Haller, who goes on to score a hat-trick. I don't think I'm giving you any spoilers. You probably know the score by now. I thought, oh no, he's a bit lethargic. He's a bit lazy. He's not really involved or interested in this game. And particularly with Anderson next to him, there was a lot of hunched shoulders, a lot of walking around, particularly from them too. I should probably say at this point, when I saw the team, I was expecting big games from the senior players. I thought this was a really big opportunity for Balbuena. I thought it was a big opportunity for Cresswell. I thought it was a big opportunity for Jack Wilshere, for Yarmolenko. And in particular, I wanted to see Sebastien Haller and Felipe Anderson really stamp their authority on the game. As players that one of them 35 million, one of them 44 million, give or take a few pence, as expensive multi-million pound players, I really expected them to impose themselves on an Ipswich Town defence, which wasn't particularly good, and a championship team. So, anyway, I'm not saying they did or they didn't. I'll leave you hanging on that if you didn't see it, basically. After 38 minutes, wonderful ball from Alessi. I mean, it was like Bobby Moore. Don't want to put any pressure on the lad, but he was like the best defender that has ever been in the history of the world. I joke, no, but it was a lovely ball. It was, he was basically stood in the centre-back position. He spotted Sebastien Haller making a run, played it with his left foot, dropped it in behind defence. Haller took it really nice on his chest. his chest, I think, has become a little bit bigger. Was it just me? The Sebastien Haller been eating the pizza, lots of pizza with the tomato topping, of course. He looked like he'd had a few pizzas, Sebastien Haller. Maybe it's the fact he had black boots on rather than pink ones or anything like that. Anyway, Haller takes it down on his chest. Wasn't in this kit, was it? Anyway, takes it down on his chest, controls it really well. Weak, again tame with the left foot. He pretty much passed it to the goalkeeper. I'm thinking, oh no, come on. Lethargic nonsense. 44 minutes, goal. You can guess who scored it. Sebastien Haller. Right, okay. Connor Coventry, who's playing right back, has put in a really good cross. I mean, a really, really good cross. It's falling. It's there for Sebastien Haller, who's in front of the goal. And he managed to, basically, if the ball would have kept going, he would have gone for a throw-in or something like that, right? That's how off-target a header was. So I've got to be, never mind his bonnet, I've got to be in my bonnet at this particular point about Sebastien Haller. I'm thinking, oh, come on. But it goes out wide. Grady Diangana goes over to get the ball. And if any of you have been watching any of those sort of highlights and snippets from when Diangana's been playing against for West Brom, it was very much the sort of stuff he's been doing. He had two defenders up against him. He teased them in, and basically he dribbled and went past two players to play the ball over and to pass the ball in. But he basically dribbled into the box. Now, in all fairness to Ipswich Town, he actually took it out of play. If VAR would have been there, it would have been that much over the line. It would have been ruled out. But anyway, I think, to be fair to the central defender, I think everybody thought it had gone out. And because of that, he sort of lazily marked Sebastien Haller, who tapped in to score. Sebastien Haller scored. But I want to give a lot of credit to Grady Diangana here at this point, because I'm trying to appraise players at the time, and he hadn't really stamped a massive amount of authority on the game. In fact, up to that point, I would probably say Yarmolenko had been our best player. But I thought David Moyes would probably appreciate Diangana's endeavour. His work rate was really good. But the fact he basically stood these two Ipswich defenders up and decided, I'm going to dribble past two Ipswich defenders. Okay, yes, it went out of touch. But it was still a good, productive manoeuvre. And he got an assist from it. And I thought he did really well. And at that point, he really started to grow into the game. So what was that? It was 44 minutes. That's half-time. So 1-0 at half-time. At 52 minutes, Yarmolenko hit the framework, right between the post and the crossbar from close range. This point, he did shoot with his right foot. He had no other option. He was frustrated not to score. Alessi had picked up a knock. Now, we'll get into individuals in a little while, so I'll talk about Alessi in a minute. Cardoso came on for him. He'd had a bit of a knock. I thought he perhaps was more injured than he turned out to be. I was worried he'd near gone or something like that, which would have been a terrible shame. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I hope he's all right. What then proceeded was 4 goals in 4 minutes, unless I've scribbled it down wrong. 60th minute. Goal, Sebastien Haller, a patient build-up. Diangana squared the ball to Haller. By this point, Diangana's on the right. Diangana and Yarmolenko have swapped sides. Another assist from Diangana. A poacher's finish, a smart finish, I've got to say, from Sebastien Haller. High and into the roof, from close, from about 6-7 yards, high into the roof of the net. No more of this tame stuff that got him caught out in the first half. Sebastien Haller probably should have scored 6 goals today or something like that. But it was good. And one thing we do have with this player, and it is up to us to try and get a tune out of him, is we do have someone that takes up good positions in the box. He will, if he plays games, he will score goals. For all his thoughts and all his annoyances that I was looking at in the first half, he's finished up with 3 goals. Yes, against Ipswich Town in a friendly. I get it. But I do think there's goals in this player, clearly. 61 minutes, Freddie Sears. Good old Fred. Was on the breakaway, sort of a counter-attack. I think we were still celebrating from the Sebastien Haller goal. I say celebrating. As celebratory as you get in a, let's say, in a pre-season friendly. Limp-wristed high fives and fist bumps and socially distanced cuddles, if there is such a thing. And whilst we were doing that, they hit us on the break. I thought Balbuena was awful in this period of defending. Anyway, the whole defence was shambolic. Freddie Sears managed to find himself in a bit, a bit of space, a lot of space, basically East Anglia, right? And he found himself in that space, and he finished well. And you know what? I was pleased for him. He's a West Ham boy, and he's gone out to have a Premier League career. It didn't matter anything to the results. Good luck to him. I bet he was pleased to score against his former club. And he celebrated a little bit, which I was pleased. It's a nice day. I wonder if he's been all humble and said, I'm not going to celebrate. So that was good. A minute later, Souček goal. You never guess where he scored from. Yes, header at the back stick. Bosh. Really good. A lovely cross from Connor Coventry. Really good cross. He did it. You don't even need to see it. I've just described it. He nodded it in at the back stick from where you've seen Souček head goals for West Ham before. That's the position he took up. He loves it there. He loves it. Suppose he doesn't move in or something. 63 minutes. Sebastien Haller's hat trick. And it was basically the defender was hassled by Diangana. And Haller just came in, picked up the loose ball and swept it home. Really, really good. After that, there were some subs. So did you get Souček and Diangana went off for Kemp and Lewis. It'd be wrong to appraise those players because they weren't really on the pitch for long. By that point, it was 4-1 and, everyone was just tapping it around. And there was drinks breaks today, funny enough, which I found quite funny. Anderson came off after 80 minutes for Odebeko. And just on the 89th minute, Randolph made a great save from Nolan. Not Kevin Nolan. Our Nolan didn't run on the pitch and try and give Ipswich a helping hand. They probably could have done with it, to be fair. No, they've got a player called Nolan, and Randolph made a good save. I can see somebody, I'm not really reading the chat, by the way, folks, because otherwise I lose my train of thought, but I can see somebody in here asking, was it Ipswich or Wickham? I'm talking about the Ipswich game, all right? Charlie and Tom are dealing with the Wickham game. Does that make sense? I think it does. Right, okay. Let me just go through these players individually for you, and hopefully I'll give you a little bit of an idea as to what I thought. Now, I don't know, for those of you that didn't know, because it was the Ipswich game, you had to pay to watch it. You had to pay a tenner. Don't mind at all. We took out a Hammers chat Patreon money, and it was, do you know what? It was worth it, because I'll tell you what, they've had no fans in there. I think there was 1,300 people watching. Basically, they've made 13 grand off that today. They've had no fans going in there, Ipswich at all. They need every penny they can get, and it was quite good. The cameras, and it was good. Lots of camera angles. Commentary was okay. Yeah, not bad at all. But so I know that a lot of you won't have watched this game, and I'm not sure if you'll get an opportunity to watch it. So I'll just take you through what I think about the players and how they did. Randolph, I think I've said that he really had no chance for the goal. He made a smart save. I think the only player that didn't come on off the bench was Roberto, which is quite telling. I mean, read into that what you will. Okay, let's start with the right back, Connor Coventry. I don't think he's a right back, but I don't even think he'll play there in emergencies. But he's clearly got quite a bright football brain. He's clearly got quite good technique. He made a couple of decent tackles as well. I was very impressed with his crossing, very accurate crossing. Got one assist. Possibly should have had two, because Haller should have finished that. Right, let's see. Let's deal with this kid. I'm quite impressed with this boy, I've got to say. Apparently, and I don't know a lot, apparently he's not a centre-half. Very athletic, reads the game really well, very bright, I've got to say. You've got excellent vision, without I mentioned a long Bobby Moore-esque pass. Very good. I like him. There was times when there was no pass on, where he would just try and bring the ball out of defence and just run it and do a little dribble. And actually, that's what almost got him injured. He found himself almost in the left wing position. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, somebody in the coaching staff has seen something in him. Now, as I understand it, the only bit of news I know from the Wickham game is that it was high scoring. And I think our young centre-back played well. That's the only bit I know. But I switched my phone off because it's, quite frankly, a distraction. But anyway, this kid, Alessi, looked all right. And hopefully he's not injured. Balbuena, he was okay. I mean, the strange thing is it was probably the kid who's not a defender who was more impressive out of the two. Cresswell was okay. I expected Cresswell to be okay. Again, he's a Scouser. It's not his hometown club, but it's where he came from, isn't it? We signed him from Ipswich. He's highly regarded there. He was made captain for today, and I thought he played okay. Not an awful lot wrong with Aaron Cresswell. That being said, their bigger threats maybe came from the other side. Andy Walsh is in the chat telling me it's 18-1. I think not, Andy. I can't imagine it's 18-1. And Russell in the chat is telling me it's Baptiste. Anyway, listen, bless you, fellas. I cannot get distracted by it. Otherwise, I'll lose what I'm talking about. I'll lose it. We can't have that. Anyway, you should be all chatted out by now. And you've been with Tom and Charlie for the past 7 hours on their live feed. I bet you know things about Wickham you never thought you'd ever know, and probably Formula One as well, and wrestling probably. Anyway, I digress. Yarmolenko. Okay, Mark Yarmolenko was carrying the biggest threat, as I may well have mentioned in the first half. That was, I thought there was enough there. If David Moyes is thinking, who am I keeping, who am I selling? Not that there's an awful lot of choice. People aren't queuing up for Yarmolenko and Anderson and so on and so forth. But I think I've got an inkling David Moyes might see enough in Yarmolenko. I think actually I can keep this kid. And quite frankly, from what he can offer, what he offers is probably more than we would get back in terms of selling him. I thought he carried a threat throughout. Souček scored. I'm glad he did. It wasn't his best game. I don't blame him. I blame the two men in midfield. It was tough because you couldn't really say that Anderson was playing midfield. So it was Souček and Wilshere. Souček is someone that really needs to play in a three with three guys into, I feel, because he's not, whilst he covers lots of miles, he's not quite athletic enough. That being said, he didn't play badly. He scored a goal. I just feel that in a three, he's able to get forward a little bit more because there's more cover there for him. And he can get into goal-scoring positions. As it was, he got into goal-scoring position once and he scored one goal. But it wasn't loads of tackles and loads of passes and all the rest of it. Next one was Jack Wilshere. Again, started the game poor, Jack Wilshere. Again, I'll give some mitigation to the system on that one. But he did grow into the game. He started knocking the ball around a lot more. Time the last 15, 20 minutes, he was almost controlling the game, although that might be stretching it. But I didn't think the midfield functioned brilliantly today. I do wonder what David Moyes. I think it's quite telling that David Moyes is there. So whoever, I'll find out. I'll go and watch the highlights from the other one as and when I can from the Wickham game. But it's quite telling that David Moyes was here. So whoever's played well in the Wickham game, particularly if you're a young player, I think they'd be a bit gutted that David Moyes wasn't there. But so anyway, this was done over Wilshere. Dean Garner's probably the main talking point here, and probably the one I guess a lot of people probably want to hear about most. I think Dean Garner has done himself the world of goods today. I'm pretty sure David Moyes has seen all the tapes and the footage of Dean Garner at West Brom. But I think now he probably looks at Dean Garner and thinks, I'm getting a shift out of this lad, because he was tracking back. He was helping Cresswell. You know, one of those things that we think that Fornals is there to do, basically, to help out Cresswell, to help out the left-back situation. He was doing all that, Dean Garner, but he also offered a threat. There's so many times he would chase balls down. And because he's fast, he would actually retrieve lost causes, if you were. He would, because of his speed, he would put the fullback under pressure. The fullback would end up making a mistake. Now, that's his work rate. And the only reason I speak about that is I was thinking that before he'd actually done anything in the game. At the point where he did something in the game, which was he did get 2 assists, I think David Moyes probably looking at it thinking, well, hold on, this guy can offer me endeavour, he can offer me work rate, and he can offer me craft as well. And he really did. And I'm really delighted for Dean Garner today. And I don't want to give over significance to a pre-season friendly, to what was a fitness game, but I will. Because, look, otherwise, why are we all here? You know, there's people watching, there's people in the chat, people are tuned into this. If nobody was interested in a pre-season friendly, there'd be nobody. I'll be talking to myself, right? But everybody's watching. So everybody must be interested in what's going on here. And I think, reading a little bit too much into it, maybe, that Dean Garner has... Am I reading too much into it? I don't know. Maybe cemented himself in David Moyes' plans a little bit. Because the other guy that was on the pitch today, who, whilst he wasn't playing on the left wing, but we know sometimes does play on the left wing, and Felipe Anderson, I felt did himself no favours. I could describe the whole performance of Felipe Anderson today for you, but you've all seen it before. You're all West Ham fans. You know what Felipe Anderson plays like. The flicks didn't come off. The passes were halfway short. The back heels didn't quite mention it. When he lost the ball, the shoulders were hunched, and he was basically looking like he wasn't interested. Nothing came off. There were a couple of crosses which looked like they might have been right. And it's so frustrating because I look at him, I think, you should be the fastest player on the pitch. He possibly was the fastest player on the pitch, but he didn't see it. He didn't seem it. The desire, he just lacks desire to impose himself on the game. he tries to do a nutmeg on someone, but it catches the defender's shin, so he pulls his leg out of the way so he don't get hurt. That's the sort of performance that I saw from Felipe Anderson today, what I've just described. You've seen it all before. Now, I don't think there was a ton of additional commitment, by the way, from Sebastien Haller. But the difference is we would take that lack of endeavour from Felipe Anderson if he finished the game with a couple of assists or he bent in a free kick or something like that. But actually, it's not like he's a luxury player who you, what should we say? You give him allowances because he comes up with the goals and he comes up with the assists. No, you don't. I think with Sebastien Haller, we've got to find a way around him because he does score goals. He does have an end product. He has the end product that Felipe Anderson doesn't. And he looked good towards the end of the game. And there were a couple of times he won his headers, as he always does. And Felipe Anderson hadn't run beyond him. Why not? Because he'd given up, because the shoulders were hunched and all the rest of it. And for everything that I said about Diangana perhaps today cementing in David Moyes reasons why Moisey might want to keep with Diangana, I think the opposite is also true for Felipe Anderson. I think today Felipe Anderson might have confirmed whatever David Moyes was thinking in his brain. Not that I know what David Moyes was thinking, but I guess David Moyes was thinking, I can't get a tune out of this fella. Yeah, strange. Really, really, really strange on that one. But look, there we go. Maybe I'm reading far too much into all of it. The lads that came off the bench, there's no point. There's not enough time to appraise them. I would say Kemp looked full of energy. Odebeko, I'd never heard of the lad before. But he came on Felipe Anderson's position. But as I say, by the time these fellas had come on, we'd sort of, we were in the mode in the game where, Wilshere was saying, hey, you have it, pass it back to me. You have it, pass it back to me. You have it, pass it back to me. And there wasn't really any long raking balls. I guess I've got to, I was going to say, I guess I've got to give a man of the match. How can you not give it to Sebastien Haller, I guess, because he scored a hat-trick. That's the easy one. That's the tap-in that sense. But I think if you've listened to everything, you probably would guess who I was most impressed with today. But all in all, I think bearing in mind Andy Walsh has suggested we might win 18-1 against Wycombe. I don't know. I'm going to go and find it out now and have a look at that after I had a cup of tea. Have a look at that one. I think all in all, if we have won handsomely, as I believe we have, maybe it's been a successful venture on these two games. We move forward to what do we do? Move forward to Brentford on Saturday, of course. So we'll be back doing this sort of thing again. Then I'm going to look at the other one. I'll be back on the forum channel tomorrow and probably talking about the other friendly. I'll give you my opinions on that. If you want to join me on there, probably up quite early in the morning. I believe Charlie's doing another review of the Wycombe game on this channel sort of right now. And we will look forward to that. So hopefully see you tomorrow. And if not, we will definitely see you on Saturday where we play Brentford. And I'm expecting a slightly sterner test. Thank you very much for tuning in.